Hi, Dan. Welcome to our podcast at Subscribed. I really appreciate your time. It has been so great meeting you over the last few months. And yeah, what brings you here today? So tell me more about yourself. I mean, you could do a lot of things and you decided somehow to come here and speak to me about all things building.
Yeah, no, I think we had some great chats. We met in London very recently and enjoyed a coffee together, and we had some great chats about building and our experience to date, especially around how the PM role is changing at the moment, especially in the age of AI and vibe coding and all that good stuff. So I thought it'd be exciting to talk and see where the conversation goes.
Yeah, and you are a vibe coder, right? And you happen to work at PhotoRoom, being responsible for what there?
Yeah, so today I'm looking at mobile activation at PhotoRoom. So for people that don't know, PhotoRoom is the world's most popular photo editing app. It's based in Paris. We're a team of just about 100 people with revenues of over 50 million and over 200 million downloads to date. And my goal at the moment is to improve our mobile activation and getting people to do multiple things in PhotoRoom.
Nice. What makes PhotoRoom special? I mean, what would Matt say, the CEO? Like, and what would
I think we're incredibly user-centric. I've never worked at a place that is so user-focused. I mean, we all say this as PMs, right, that we talk to users, but this is really the first place where the company really lives and breathes that. So we have an amazing user research team that's incredibly good at getting people in interviews. And then we have those interviews recorded, shared on a podcast, and everyone in the company is really living and breathing the insights from our users, which is quite rare, I think.
What do you mean you shared it in podcast? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so this was a great idea from Corey, our head of research, which was to share the insights. So all the recordings that are done from anyone in the company doing user research are uploaded to a private podcast, which is then distributed through Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts if you prefer. And everyone can listen to them as they go. We have little descriptions, a little intro music, and basically anyone can listen to any of the user research sessions that happens in PhotoRoom.
Oh, that's cool. So you can basically go into the weekend and enjoy yourself listening to user research.
Yeah.
Or during the day while you're working.
Matt, for example, Matt commutes into the office and listens to the user research from the day before.
Wow, that's cool. So Matt is also very user-focused.
Very user-focused. I mean, everyone at PhotoRoom really is. And everyone's really encouraged to do their own research. That really is, we really pride ourselves on talking to as many users as possible and then making sure that we have ways to synthesize those insights in a clean and efficient way. We try to make sure we don't do huge research projects that take months and months and months, and try and make sure that we find questions that we want to answer quickly and efficiently, especially as a fast-moving Series B startup. But we don't have 6 months to do lots of strategic research.
I mean, you probably know that I worked for the dark side or bright side, like for Canva before. I did growth there as well. Obviously, user research is very important there in the company as well. So I'm always really curious on how other companies do that, and particularly if they're in a similar, let's say, industry. I mean, PhotoRoom is like more photo or first, but obviously there are some similarities between the two applications, yeah. Right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I think definitely some similarities. But I think where we differ is the focus on e-commerce and resellers that PhotoRoom has. So really trying to help people sell better and sell more of their products and empowering those businesses. We like to think of ourselves more of a creative studio for those folks, opposed to more of a work assistant that PhotoRoom, that Canva would be.
Like you spoke about AI, you're passionate about that. And even when we met, you showed me all your vibe codes and mockups and stuff. Like, how are your vibe code prototypes landing with designers? Be honest. What do they like? And
so,
what?
Firstly, I think this term vibe coding, I don't know, it's a term that I feel's got a bit of a bad connotation now. But I think from working with our designers, they're very receptive to it. I haven't seen any pushback on it. I think the conversation I have with my designer at the moment, Jay, is like, when should we use a vibe coded prototype versus a more high fidelity prototype that he might create on Figma for testing, for example, with users before we go anywhere near build. And I think there are different applications for both of those things. Like if you want to get insights on maybe a new piece of technology or a new model, for example, that we're testing, a vibe coded prototype works very well in user testing. But when you're doing like high fidelity content based testing, a traditional prototype sometimes works better. So I think there's room for both at the moment.
Okay, so are you still creating mockups and designs from scratch to have conversations, or do designers do that? Do designers use vibe coding to create prototypes or not?
Yeah, they definitely do. I think it's definitely more at the moment, from where I'm seeing it, more of a PM activity or an engineer activity. I think it's really good to get an idea in front of people and get feedback, especially internally, before taking it any further. And it also allows us to test the state of the art in terms of models, to see if the models can do what we want them to do before we build a feature or even go to design a feature. So I think it's really good for that initial ideation stage and concept stage, as well as like testing out new technologies.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, what is your background? Like, why did you decide to work in the PM industry, and what why are you here today? I mean, you did a lot of different things. You worked. I don't want to steal the details, but yeah, what did you do before, and how did you go? Why you're here today?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my friends would laugh. You know, I did a geography degree in Manchester. It's really a degree for people that don't really know what they want to do with their careers. It's sort of a catch-all degree. You do a bit of sociology, you do a bit of politics, you do a bit of economics. So I studied human geography and not physical geography, as most people might assume. So human geography is about how cities work, how urban environments work. And that led me to do my dissertation in augmented reality. So I spent a lot of time in Amsterdam actually studying and walking around the city using very early augmented reality search apps. So trying to find a restaurant near me or a coffee shop near me. So then, but using AR apps, they've all died. And maybe Snapchat is the only company who's really investing in AR these days. But it was a really exciting time for those applications. So I did my dissertation in that. And I was like, oh, there's something in this world that's really intriguing to me, especially how users are interacting with these devices and these apps. And that led me to get an internship in Amsterdam at a company called 3D Hubs, which is now called Hubs, which I think exited a couple of years ago. And I saw what the PMs were doing there, and it seemed like that great mix of user insight, working with really smart engineers, working with amazing designers. And it was really exciting to see this job existed. So I started pursuing my career.
That's really interesting. So you wrote so actually I wrote some sort of stuff about social media and Facebook when I was in my bachelor. I'm kind of embarrassed what I wrote in there. It's really poor quality, but I guess it was about the brands and how they're perceived, on how social media influenced it. And then I started working for Facebook as my first job. So I know we spoke about Snapchat and research. Like, what's your story with Snapchat? Is there anything you can share?
Yeah. So, I mean, after that internship, I sort of went down this road of like, how can I get a leg in this industry? And I did that silly thing of thinking straight out of uni, I could just apply to Airbnb as a PM and they would hire me. And then realized very quickly that wasn't going to be a very good route. That was maybe 10 years ago now. And so I found a job at a big consultancy firm. They gave me opportunities in the product sphere. And the TLDR is, after forming a startup in Berlin for a few years, I then moved to a startup in Paris called Zenly. And Zenly was essentially Find My Friends on steroids. So it works across iOS and Android, very big in Japan and South Korea and all those Asian markets, which traditionally social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram have struggled to break into. That's what was so interesting about it as an opportunity. They had a real eye for design and a real passion for user-centric work, which was also exciting. And they had some crazy bets that they were working on as well, which is also why I joined them. So
how many people were there when you joined?
I think there were about 80 when I joined.
Oh, that's a good size.
Yeah, I think about 10 in design. Design was very, very, it was a design-led company for sure. Design and product-led, but also did some amazing engineering, but definitely design was leading the way, and engineering would have to find a way to
make it happen.
To make it happen and meet the expectations on a product craft side. And so it was super exciting. And I was working with an amazing team of engineers working on a proprietary 3D map of the world. And it was really exciting to take something I'd been doing in my degree with augmented reality mapping and take that into my actual job at Zenly.
That sounds so cool. So then you went from augmented reality straight to PhotoRoom, and now you helping the company scale from 0 to 10, from 10 to 50 million ARR. So how was this journey? I mean, I don't know when you joined specifically, because you have been 2 years and a bit, or 3 years almost at PhotoRoom. So yeah. How did the company change with more ARR? And like I'm curious about it. Like, how did your work change with more revenue coming in, different types of users using the product? Were there any new challenges, or was it like it's kind of the same? I mean, Canva is now at 3 billion, I believe. So it's obviously much bigger. But I think the company had a very different motion. They went in for free for a long time and then turned on monetization and had explosive growth, which is pretty awesome. And they were leading the category and defining it. How is it for you? I mean, you came in monetizing way earlier. I also have some other companies I'm friends with, the founders like Kittle, where they monetized very early on, focusing on desktop first and stuff. How is it for you? Like, sorry, long question. Like, how is the monetization going and the users? Like, what's happening there? How did it change?
That's a good question. So I've been at PhotoRoom now for 2 years. My original role at PhotoRoom was to work on our teams and collaboration features. So less on solo monetization, but more on multiplayer monetization and features, which was sort of marrying the work that I'd been doing at Zenly, and then some of the work that I'd done at Cash App as well on viral loops and growth to bring that to teams and collaboration at PhotoRoom. And so I spent the first 18 months of my time there on teams and collaboration. And I think what's interesting about that work is how hard it is to then apply some of those collaboration features on top of existing monetization tactics, especially on mobile apps. What PhotoRoom's amazing at, and what we're getting much better at, is optimizing our UA spend and making sure that we're getting the right users and they're subscribing to the product. However, when you try and add seats into that model or multiplayer aspect to it, it means that iOS and Android don't support the multi-seat notion that you'd get traditionally in SaaS. So you have to find clever workarounds to try and get people to join those teams, to then have access to the features they need to do their jobs and to retain on those plans. So I think the challenge for me and the company was, how do we bring this solo motion that's done so well to a team plan?
And how did it go, practically speaking?
So the mobile products, so we ended up following this path of offering free seats as part of the mobile subscription, which works really well.
Like 4 seats, like you pay one, you get 5.
2 free seats in the plan, in your traditional plan for your first team. I mean, ultimately, we want people to be subscribing on the web, but conversion on mobile through the App Store, for example, is just so much higher. So we really invested a lot of time there. So that worked really well. And then I think things we could have done better is, I think we focused maybe on a lot of traditional collaboration features. So things like commenting or reacting to designs. That was mainly coming through user interviews and understanding people were spending a lot of time in WhatsApp communicating about their work and sharing images back and forth.
It's kind of hard creating a slick mobile experience to collaborate. It's kind of the harder thing you can do. It's like social media.
Super hard. And I think
competing with WhatsApp, you're competing with the tension with WhatsApp in a way, aren't you?
Yeah. And it's like, how do we get people from WhatsApp? How can we provide value that's so much higher than WhatsApp to get them across?
It's kind of interesting, I speak with like other companies, and collaboration is almost like the Achilles feet. Everyone needs it. And even when you look at what Canva has today, Canva has probably the most resources. Maybe Figma has more, even around collaboration. I mean, Figma is the collaboration tool, but they are more desktop first and web based. So it's kind of cheating, right? But when you look at mobile first design companies, they're all collaboration sucks in comparison to WhatsApp. Like when you look at the features and I think it makes sense, because it's so hard creating a slick user experience on mobile that is chat based and feels smooth. For example, I use Upwork, and Upwork has now, after many years, a somewhat great mobile experience where you can collaborate and do tasks and stuff. But I think for many years, like till 3 years ago, so I felt like I cannot use this. This sucks. And yeah, like the investment going mobile must be huge, I assume, right, to make it working well. Does it resonate with you, the statement, or you're like, oh no, Pius, that's totally bullshit. It's not needed. Like,
no, I think
industry specific, not about your company.
Yeah, no. I think you're right, and I think the thesis we have is that this work will pay off in the long run, given the fact that a lot of our users skipped the desktop. So they don't use the desktop for their businesses, and they run their whole businesses on their phone through WhatsApp. They hardly go to a PC or a laptop. And so that's our thesis of like, how can we be a player in that space, mobile first, and the complexity from a PM perspective is that you're building those features on 3 platforms at the same time that have to be in sync with each other. And they have to be live and they have to update in real time, so the user feels like it's it's working and it's better than what they have elsewhere.
Yeah, it's kind of when Facebook went all in on. I used to work for Facebook, and then Facebook went in all in on mobile and was mobile first. And I think my opinion, my view is, like, it doesn't need to be shared, that the mode of creating designs on mobile is through AI. I think that's part of the reason why these AI bots are so good. Like, even when you use ChatGPT, you create like images. Obviously, you cannot use the designs. Like, in reality, you cannot use the designs that easily yet for anything. But just making a prompt is like the natural way on mobile to do something. Not going in an editor and fiddling around on a screen size that is much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And last week I met the founder of Sintra AI. I think they closed the biggest seed round ever in Europe. I don't think it's disclosed yet. And basically what they do is they have these marketing agents and stuff, and they make incredible amount of revenue. And but I really think it's a mobile first product in some way, right? So I think you can actually use it on a mobile phone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the quality is going to be that awesome, but it works because of AI. What's your view on that? Or do you think there will be ever an editor you can use on your phone to do stuff?
I mean, I think we pride ourselves on having a very accessible editor, an editor that's used a lot by our users. But I think your point is correct when you think of, I come to this app, how can we provide the best content for you without you having to even think of a prompt? I think that's the way we think of it, more than, hey, let's provide an interface for you to use a prompt or tweak a prompt. It's much more like, how can we provide content that you haven't even thought about or that is relevant to you when you open PhotoRoom? So I think that is the angle we're going at, and that ideally typing a prompt isn't the best interface for creating an image. So we want to provide enough value up front based on what we know about the user.
But you're really good on being image first, which is like mobile. I'm just downloading your app again because I want to go through the onboarding
You don't have
experience.
it? Come on.
I do have it, but I want to go through the onboarding experience.
Oh, okay. Well, you can send me notes afterwards, yeah?
Yeah, no, I'm telling you now, I'm testing it. I think for your product, it's like really mobile first. It's like awesome. You do a lot of background removing stuff as well and placing the product a little bit like Mocha AI. Have you heard about them? Funny, like amazing startup story. Like they did a lot of things and then they went through the roof with this product, and I think they had to sell it or so. I think we talked about it really quick, despite the success. But that was like a great product. And I think for you guys, you own at least a big chunk of the mobile first experience, which is like the photo stuff, right? Do you see it that way? That's where you dominate.
So, I mean, this is where people are taking their photos, right? So
exactly.
First is really important. And then it's like, how can we then empower them to create visuals that help them sell their items better online? And we're really focusing on those small to medium-sized teams who are, got their B2C brand, they're doing maybe this side hustle and they need some help and they can't afford a big creative studio or a photographer. And that's really where we lie. But we've also got a huge drive in our enterprise side. So we have some huge clients, including Walt in Europe and DoorDash in the States, that are using our APIs and all of our.
You have a huge API business. How did you come up with this idea? Like, what's the story behind it?
Because I can't speak to the where the idea came from. That's definitely
it's
Michelle and Matt's side, but I think we saw a very organic outreach of people wanting to use our API, and it really grew from there. And so over time, working with some of these large clients, we're working out what their big image needs are, how we can automate a lot of their processes, and how we can then, our API can then be used to power those businesses. So
I love that.
Yeah, Walt's a great example. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No.
I think all the you and Canva have actually quite like not complex, quite diverse business model. I mean, Canva has the print and then all the acquisition. Let's look away from the acquisition.
They don't have a dog though.
Visitors coming up. And I think that's kind of smart because you kind of diversify a little bit and then it works, like you have the API business, you have the print business. And that's, I think, also a good thing if you have different business streams. And I loved it about your business. I think it's so cool that you invest in these API things like next to Teams and Enterprise and Activation. Yeah. anyhow,
It's
just
cool.
want to say that.
I think like the reality of that motion and moving into that space is also how do we take the business that is traditionally very B2C, very solo, into these new territories whilst not neglecting the solo business. So I think, and still continue to grow it. So I think with this shift and with the diversification of our revenue comes culture changes and the need to learn and be more aware of the things that are happening in the business.
Yeah, definitely. And what keeps Dan? What would you tell a young Dan to do? I mean, you looking back when you were a kid, like what would you tell yourself do different? Anything because you already like you took like big risks and stuff, but do you feel like anything that you would tell yourself?
That's a good question. That's like a therapy question.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
But it's for free.
Thanks. I think if I was to go back again, I mean, I wouldn't change anything, but if I was to think about from an education perspective, would I have done a geography degree? Probably not.
Yeah, you should become a designer, right? That's
yeah,
what
well, would I have done design or industrial design or something along those lines? I think that could have been really interesting. I didn't even know those types of roles existed, right? So I think if I was to go back, we would have maybe focused in design or even engineering.
It's interesting because to me also, I also think I had loved to become a designer, But then when I actually look at the path, how people like there's like industrial design degree in Austria, but they're very different, very heavy on the tools and things. I think in the US it's can be more creative, or it's different types of education anyhow, even when you look at architecture and these type of things, US and Austria. So I think if I had done industrial design here in Austria, I had never developed the love for design the way I do now. That's kind of my realization, because when you work with designers that are very technical, they just have strengths I don't have. Like I think this extreme ability to focus, sometimes the engineers become designers and so on. And I think everyone comes from a slightly different background. I mean, Steve Jobs did calligraphy in a way, right? And then did some other things. But yeah, that's just my view. I don't really know if you can actually study what we do now, or if something existed. But I'm wondering often the same. Like I have the same thought in a way. But yeah.
I think what's great about the workplace we're in now is that we have a lot more tools to start experimenting in those spaces and learn those skills without having necessarily to do a full degree in them. And I think that's super empowering, especially as a PM, where you have that breadth and you do have that scope to try new things and test things and fail and then maybe make a case to do something properly. I think that's exciting. So I'm now, experimenting with that urge to build in different ways without requiring an engineering degree or a design degree.
Yeah, 100%. Coming back to PhotoRoom, like a few more questions. Like, what changes did you observe for the PM specialty coming from less to more revenue, like from 10 to 50? And also, I mean, not speaking for PhotoRoom, but your observation. And second question, I would like to separate it. What is the impact on the eye on the PM function from your perspective? Mm-hmm. Should we start with the first?
Yeah. So that question is more around, as the company's grown in terms of ARR, have you seen the role shift or the need for PM?
Exactly.
Shift? Yeah. And I think it's an interesting question. When we think about, so PhotoRoom's like hiring strategy is really to be lean and to only hire when there's a real need. So we don't overhire. There's like a lot of discussion. Should we open a role or not? Could that role be done in other ways? Is it an automation? Is it an agent before we even go near hiring? And then only when a real need presents itself will we make a hire. So the idea of just having a PM for every team or vertical or feature isn't really in the DNA of the company. So PMs at PhotoRoom are a very lean team. So products at PhotoRoom is very lean. I think today, full time in the product org, we have 3 PMs. I think maybe that might become 4 by the end of the year, but that's a TBC, which is very lean, right?
But that's a good thing, right? It makes collaboration way easier, doesn't it?
Collaboration is super easy, but it also means you're doing a lot all of the time. So you have to manage your time very effectively, and you have to find ways to automate parts of your job.
So don't have podcasts with Pius then, right?
So this is not an ideal use of time. Yeah. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But it is a nice break, and it's good to reflect and stay sane as well. Having having such a lean PM team is both beneficial. Well, I think it's only beneficial, to be honest. I've worked in, other orgs where there's 60 PMs and everything requires 6 months of stage gates to get a feature through. In PhotoRoom especially, that can be an idea to shipping within a day, especially on web. And no one is asking why you're doing that. They only ask, how did it go? What did you learn? How can we improve on that? Should we kill it? Those sort of questions. Mm-hmm. So product at PhotoRoom is very different. It's very much ship fast with high autonomy.
Do you use a lot of analytics? We talked about design in your job. Do you use Amplitude or what's your go-to?
Yeah, so we're heavy Amplitude users.
It's the best one, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Actually, to be honest, I've only ever used Amplitude. So I've been very lucky.
Does the marketing function use it as well?
Marketing, yeah. And then we've got a growing BI setup. For UA.
Sorry, I'm literally asking for a friend. I'm going to let her know that. Because they're head of partnerships for Amplitude. I think they really want to go more into marketing. And I was like, everyone is using it in marketing because you did it, Canva and you. But I think she was more thinking about traditional companies. It's such a great tool. I love it. Anyhow, let's keep going.
Yeah, I think the real ethos of data at PhotoRoom is like, how can we make sure it's self-serve? So anyone in the company can do analysis. And I think that's the crux, right?
Everyone needs to do that. Yeah, everyone needs to have access. And so the role changed for PMs, but you have less. Do you think it's funner to work there than with more PMs?
Say that again.
Is it funner? Is it more fun to work in a place like that when there are 3 to 4?
Well, I think all PMs want autonomy, right? I think they want autonomy and they want to build things.
100% for me, yes. For me, it's the case. I thrive in chaos. I thrive in not having setting. Like I'm thriving creating rules and ambiguity. I don't thrive in I do thrive in processes as well, but only if I'm on the top. And at some point I always lose the climb, which is normal, you cannot win all the time. Mm-hmm. And then it's not so much fun, like, oh man, like always being told what to do. That's why I'm a founder. It's much more suffering, but I love it.
Yeah, no, I think it's really a testament to Matt and Elliot's focus on ship fast as a company mission. It really is core to everything we do. And it's not just like one of those, fluffy statements when people join the company. It really is like, how could we have shipped this faster? What can we do to trim it to ship and get a learning quickly without negating the actual feature and the benefits?
That's so important. My God, like I just had a chat last week about a new feature we're going to ship, and we were able to scope it down a little bit, have the same value discussed with the engineer, and then we are now able to launch in 2 weeks instead of 3 months. It's kind of insane. When we think about the design and the vision we created, and we are able to get 90% there, we don't even need the rest. Yeah, it's like, I think that's the PM skill. Like bringing people together and making something. I think it's changed,
right, as well, which is like, hey, okay, could you vibe code the idea? Is that production worthy? In some cases, we're even experimenting with that.
Are you doing that? Are you releasing vibe coding?
Not in my team, but I know that's an idea that we're going to try at some point of like shipping something that's going to be vibe coded and see if it works. But I think that's the level of experimentation that PhotoRoom has of like, okay, how can we ship fast? How can we learn quickly? Could it be a prototype first? Could we do some user testing, right, before we go anywhere near it? And then, okay, what's the leanest version of this to get the learnings, then continue investing or to kill it?
So now we're at the topic AI and PMing. Like, how did the role now change with AI for you for everyone else?
I think the expectation used to be that, you'd come up with business proposition, or you maybe come up with a PRD, or you'd come up with some specs.
One pager.
Whatever we want to call it, whatever different unit of work a PM wants to call it. And then we'd work with the designer to come up with a prototype, maybe do a round of feedback, maybe another round of feedback. At some point within 3 weeks, it goes to a developer to then implement. And I think this world has shifted, and actually the PMs that I'm working with at PhotoRoom, we both develop the prototype, test it with users before it's even gone near design. And that allows, in some cases, right? Not in all cases, but in lots of cases. And we can then test that, we can get user feedback on that before it even enters the app. And I think we're more empowered to do more of the early work ourselves and then leave.
Do you design in Figma? Do you do prototypes in Figma?
Yeah. I wouldn't say my designs in Figma are very good. And sometimes I have to share them with designers and sort of like close my eyes as they look at them. But it's not a problem. As long as you're conveying the idea, it's not a problem. And I think that's how the role's shifting, is that I think companies will have far fewer PMs, if only maybe just head of product in the future, that does a lot of this work and focuses on this early exploration, validation, ideation stage. and then designers and engineers do what they do best, which
So
is solving those hard problems.
only head of product, you mean for 10
like
people org? What about 50
for
or
like
100
Series
people?
Series
Okay.
like pre-seed, Series A. I can imagine there's no real need for lots of PMs at that stage, in my opinion.
I mean, there was. I think that engineering design, they can take on functions as well. I think part of my observation is that now there's way more talent in the market. I mean, just tougher getting a job, from employee perspective. But it means that you can find better people who also do project management and stuff. I think 2021 and 2 was like so explosive and strange in some ways. And I think strange because it inflated the organization. Now you have AI like a catalyst, making everything even more productive. So yeah, I think it's just true. We need less PMs, but also I think there's like better people that can do project management, and expectation is there, which I think is great because it makes things more innovative. There were too many resources for too long. Do stuff.
No, I think to your point, I think we have to be very flexible as PMs now and fill the gaps where needed. And we're all good at different things, and I think the PM role is still very important. I think it's just we need probably fewer of them and empower more people in the team to take on parts of those roles.
Yeah. 100%. So what's your plan for the next 6 months? What will future Dan do? Where will he be in end of Q3? Yeah, with the PM role and the product.
Yeah. So, I mean, for my role, really my goal for the next 3 months on a personal level will be automating parts of my job that take a lot of time that I don't need to be doing anymore. So like status updates, things like this, that I can automate. Deep research, I can automate. User research, I continue to automate and find ways to improve. And then on a metrics basis, it'll be around that mobile activation number. So increasing that and seeing a tangible impact on the business metrics. So yeah, that's really my goal, and huge changes coming to the homepage of the app, and some of the other parts of the app to
the main landing page. I did the main landing page for Canva, so I won't be able to share my secrets with you. Therefore, because I'm still an NDA.
Okay, no. Good. Well, maybe I'll bribe you.
Yeah. No, I can't do that. No, I'm kidding. I think homepage is not rocket science. There's nothing to hide. But yeah, I think the homepage is like such an important aspect of any product, even if it's mobile first, to just show what's there. I experienced it firsthand, and I thought like, oh my God, it's like the most annoying project I've ever been, working with marketing, working with business, and everyone having very strong opinions. It was the hardest project I've ever worked on, I think. And everyone cares and no one does either, but I was just pushing it through.
Yeah, I think that the challenge I'm finding in the role is that, everyone has a stake on this page, and then making sure everyone's happy, but then also making sure
no one is ever happy. But
the user comes first, and making sure that we're doing the right thing by the user is the most important thing, right? So
100%.
But it's always a hard battle, and I understand why people want to put their feature with a big banner on this screen.
Yeah, exactly. Only API product for
just API, just API only, right? Yeah,
the API company.
For sure.
No, okay, thank you so much, Dan. This was really, really amazing hearing your stories and stuff.
Thank you.
So one last message for our listeners, like why about you or PhotoRoom, like one learning you want to give them. Like if someone is in your own shoes, wants to become a PM or wants to join a great company like PhotoRoom, what would you tell them to do and not to do?
So I would say if you want to join a company like PhotoRoom, I would look for early stage roles and with the potential of bigger upsides in terms of personal growth and learning. So it's very easy for us to look at these big FANG companies and look and be attracted by the salaries and all the perks. But I would be much more, if I was in your shoes, I'd go to a smaller company, Series A, Series B, that's profitable, that has a focus on profitability as well, and to learn internally in that environment.